What's up, guys? Nuance Bro checking in, and today we're going to be talking about Jim Acosta having his press credentials removed from the White House and whether that was justified. But first,
if you would like to support this channel, please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. And not only will you help support more videos like this, but you will gain access to exclusive video clips, our members-only Discord, as well as other perks. So please go to www.patreon.com/nuancebro to become a patron today.
so President Trump had a press conference where he spoke for about an hour and a half and answered all kinds of questions from the press. And Jim Acosta of CNN decided to speak and ask a question, and this transpired.
And so then, wait a minute, then the follow-up.
You heard my answer. Go ahead.
Well, since it's Jim, I'll let it go.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that.
And why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in this election to try to keep them?
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
Right. But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and so on.
That's true. But they weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. Right. These were people. This was an actual, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was
enough.
going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his butt.
Well, I'm not a big fan of yours either, so
I understand.
To be honest.
So let me ask you a question, if I can. You repeatedly said
you aren't the best,
Mr. President. You repeatedly over the course of
just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Mr. President, over the course of the last several days.
Now, as you can see from the clip, President Trump answered Jim's question. He allowed him to ask his question, even answered his follow-up questions and allowed him to ask those follow-up questions. But eventually you have to get to other reporters in the room. And he told them, look, your time's up. This is over. But Jim Acosta decided to keep prodding. Now, I don't think it's totally out of line to, ask an additional question or two, trying to get an answer out of the president, especially if he tends to answer those questions. But the thing is, with Jim Acosta, not only did he do that, he continued to interrupt, even though the president was moving on to another question. But even when the White House intern, this female, came up and tried to take the microphone from him, he physically resisted having the microphone taken from him and did not allow other reporters to ask their question. And even after that, after he's decided to sit down, another reporter got up, decided to ask a question, and then Jim Acosta stood up again without any microphone, decided to start, yelling at the president. And this type of behavior is just unacceptable. So I think this is 100% legitimate criticism of Jim Acosta. This isn't even the first time he's done this. For example, we can look at other cases. For example, in January 11th, 2017, Jim Acosta decided to interrupt another press conference with President Trump and did this.
Go ahead.
Sure. No, Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
Since you are attacking
No,
our news
not you.
organization,
Not
can
you.
you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are
is
attacking
terrible.
our news organization.
Your organization
Can you give us a
is
chance
terrible.
to
Let's
ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can
Quiet.
you state,
Quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state
She's asking a
categorically,
question.
Mr.
Don't be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you
No,
give
I'm
us
not
a
going to give you
question?
a question. I'm not going to give you a
Can
question.
you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
Go ahead.
can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not
Go ahead.
appropriate.
In June of this year, when President Trump was signing documents with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, Acosta decided to interrupt during the signing ceremony.
Did you talk about auto-warm beer, sir?
In fact, during the North Korean summit, when other reporters weren't yelling questions, Acosta decided to get on some sort of bullhorn device and shout things at Trump and Kim Jong-un.
Mr. President, how's the meeting going so far, sir? Any progress, Mr. President?
And in fact, he was actually caught on a hot mic talking about how that's the way it goes, baby, and using some colorful language.
Hey, if they're not going to let me in the meeting, that's right.
Yeah, that's our shot to ask him.
All day long, man. All day long.
It's certainly our
They don't
shot
want
to
to
ask him a question.
That's all day long. That's the way it goes, baby.
And there's many other instances of Acosta doing this, and it seems like Acosta likes to do this sort of virtue signaling, holier than thou, standing up for the people, sort of self-promotion type questions and, acts. This is all kind of an act for him to gain more followers on Twitter, gain more prominence, and kind of get everybody on the left cheering him on for taking on Trump. But this isn't real journalism. This is not the way to conduct yourself when you're in the White House press room. Now, Jim Acosta had his press credentials removed. Now, do I agree with this decision? Well, it depends. Is this permanent? Is this temporary? We don't know at this point. He will probably have his press credentials reinstated at some time, but I think for this kind of behavior, it's not the kind of behavior that should go unchecked. If you're going to constantly interrupt and take away time from other reporters as well, you can't encourage that behavior. There have to be some consequences. Otherwise, you're kind of incentivizing it, and you're making it so other people feel like the only way they can get their questions in is if they shout over other reporters and hold onto the mic and hog it and fight it away from people trying to take away from them. That's not behavior that should be encouraged. So I think it was the right decision to take away his press credentials, at least temporarily, and maybe CNN could have someone who's actually more qualified and is more professional about these types of things. Now, that's my take on the issue, and that's my criticism. But other people have decided to use this opportunity not only to make the legitimate criticism of Jim Acosta, but they decided to go with an entirely different route of attack against him. Now, if we take a look at the video again, you can see this happen.
That's enough. That's
Mr.
enough.
President, I
That's
was going to
enough.
ask one of the other folks. have
That's
had-
enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr.
Excuse
President.
me. That's enough.
So when the White House intern is reaching for the mic to take it away from Acosta, people are saying that this move by Acosta is him assaulting the woman. They're saying Acosta put his hands on her and karate chopped her. Even White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders decided to tweet about this incident, saying that Jim Acosta put his hands on the on the White House intern. Now, do I think this is fair? No, I don't. I don't think Jim Acosta assaulted a woman. I think he was speaking, and yes, he was physically resisting having the mic taken away from him. But when his hand moves in this downward motion, it seems like he was just moving his hands. And even if it was slightly intentional, I don't think he was doing it to be like, get your hands off of this mic. You even hear him say, pardon me. But this idea that, Acosta just assaulted this woman, I think people are putting in their political partisan lenses and trying to make Acosta seem as bad as possible and basically distorting reality so it fits into the way they view the world, or that in order to achieve the kind of results that they want to see. But this is wrong. Acosta did not assault this woman. And even though he deserves to have his press credentials taken away from, attending any more events like this with the president, at least for some temporary period of time, perhaps even permanently, this is not the justification for doing that. The real justification is all of his interruptions, inappropriate behavior, just, total virtue signaling and, grandstanding, self-promotion, not being a real journalist, constantly interrupting, not acting like a professional. Those are the legitimate reasons for taking away his press credentials, not this whole, fabricated idea that he assaulted this poor woman. So if any of you watching this video who decided to jump on this train of saying, Acosta assaulted this woman and you were being serious about it, I would simply try to reach out and ask, take off the political partisan lens, try to look at this objectively. If something like this happened to, let's say, a Fox News reporter who was asking President Obama a question, or if this happened to President Trump and maybe he did some sort of hand movement and, the people were claiming that President Trump assaulted a woman. Would you buy that, or would you be defending those people? Try to apply the same standard to everyone, regardless of what their politics are, regardless if you agree with them or don't agree with them. Try to be objective and let the facts speak for themselves. Don't try to insert your own political views into a situation and making it seem a certain way to achieve your desired outcome. But that's all I have to say about this, guys. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Leave it in the comments down below. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Support me on Patreon. Social media links are in the description box below, as well as merch. And I'll see you next time, bro.